Hey everybody, welcome back to Life After Accutane. My name's Tom, and I created this channel to share the stories of people who've been negatively affected by a drug known as Accutane, Roaccutane, or Isotretinoin is the generic name. For this interview, I've been joined by Schuyler. He's from Florida, and we connected via YouTube comments on another video that I posted over on my Primal Nutritionist channel a while ago. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with the videos that I'm posting on here. And also, if you'd like to support the channel, please head to patreon.com/lifeafteraccutane. And yeah, Schuyler, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we can get going on the questions.
All right. So, hi everybody. I'm Schuyler. I'm a isotretinoin survivor. Took Accutane in high school for 6 months, maybe a little bit less, and can definitely relate to a lot of the negative side effects people have had from it. So, guess it's on you then.
Okay, yeah. Right, so first question, you've kind of answered that a little bit. How long ago did you take the drug?
So I started Accutane way back in 10th grade. I started on I don't know exactly how much it was. I think it was the standard dosage of 40 or 60 milligrams. And I started that it was within a day or two of 9/11, 2001. I was not quite 16 yet. I had a bad case of cystic acne all over my face. Mostly my cheeks were the worst part, and my shoulders and my chest and my back.
Okay. Did your doctor give you any warnings before you went on the drug?
Yes, they did make it clear that it could exacerbate depression. Some people had become suicidal, and so they reminded me to let me know if I was feeling anything like that. And I don't think, I'm sure they listed some additional side effects, but um, wasn't really anything that was emphasized. Um, yeah.
Okay, and how was your health generally when you started taking the drug?
When I started out, I'd say my health was pretty much perfect. I wasn't getting a lot of exercise, and was obviously kind of self-conscious and not in a really confident, good mood just because of how bad my acne was.
Okay,
But
so
other than
yeah,
that, I was healthy.
were you kind of subjected to any kind of teasing or anything like that by your by people that you were at school with, or friends, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, a little bit. I think that I kind of my acne was so bad that people probably just talks about it behind my back.
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of a little bit worse than teasing, but I remember mostly I was teased over my blackheads, and that was before my acne got really bad.
Okay. Um, did you have a blood test before, during, or after taking the drug?
I believe they did give me a blood test prior, and definitely while I was taking it. I don't know how many blood tests I had or how often it was, but it's definitely something they looked at.
Do you remember if they showed any abnormalities or raised cholesterol or any
I,
issues like that, liver function issues?
I don't believe so. I mean, I've always got high bilirubin count, like your uh, the last guy you interviewed had, but I think that's a separate issue.
Okay, that does seem to be quite common with quite a few acne medications. Actually, I've heard that about some of the antibiotics that are prescribed for acne as well, and that it can be a sign of a sluggish gallbladder. I think when bilirubin levels rise, it's to do with poor liver detoxification.
Yeah, typically like a really mild form of jaundice, right?
Yeah, yeah. And what side effects did you have while you were taking it?
So I think the most pronounced external side effect was that it made my acne a lot worse for a few weeks or maybe a month or two when I was starting it. Yeah, there was a lot of inflammation. There was a lot of lip peeling. Um, I actually didn't bother using chapstick at all. It was so bad. I was just, I mean, I definitely lost a layer of epidermis there during that. And as far as mental side effects, I definitely felt like I fell into a really deep sense of guilt and despair within the first few days of taking it. At the time, I didn't really tell anybody because I kind of connected it to something else that happened around that time. And, you know, it doesn't make any sense at all in retrospect. It was definitely the drug, but
But what about it? So it wasn't because your face was breaking out with more acne. It wasn't a reaction. Your um, the mental issues that you were dealing with around that time weren't a direct result of seeing that your face was breaking out with more acne.
no, that started well before my acne got worse. It was a very deep sense of guilt
Right.
that I felt before.
So you would, looking back on that now, you'd probably say that the drug altered your brain chemistry, or possibly inflammation infected your brain.
Something wasn't quite right there. I would say for sure. I don't really know if it slowly went away as time went on, or if I just kind of got used to it. It was definitely but the guilt was very pronounced, and also just kind of anger, not really directed at anyone or anything. Just felt really kind of miserable and in a really bad mood. Um, and also, I remember struggling a lot academically to focus and learn. Affected something there too.
Yeah. So cognition, mood issues. Um, yeah, that's all. Rage is a very common side effect. Um, okay. I was going to ask, what was your mental health like while taking it? But we just covered that. Um, did it clear your acne?
It did eventually. It started to clear up. The acne wasn't really so inflamed and three-dimensional anymore. Just kind of like some flat red spots, and obviously the scars were really bad, and that was permanent. But um, let's see. I don't. I either had one 6-month course or part of it. I don't quite remember, but I know that um, both the doctor and my mom felt like there was a noticeable change in behavior and moods, so they were getting kind of worried about that. And it was discontinued. I was taken off of it
Okay.
at some point before 6 months, I believe.
But at that point, your acne was clear. Your skin was clear.
It had gotten better. It had
Right.
gotten better. It wasn't completely gone, but there had been improvement.
Okay. Because your face, I mean, your face looks completely clear now. Did it just clear over time, or is there something else that you've done?
Um, it's cleared up a lot since the end of Accutane treatment. It was kind of slow, but it was never as bad as it was before the Accutane or during the Accutane. And let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
There was a question that Stefan actually asked me on the last interview, during the last interview. He asked if I could, and I've actually shared this opinion before. But I'll ask you the same thing. If you could swap the issues that you have now for the acne that you had before, would you?
You mean like permanent, long term, the worst of the acne permanently, or?
Um, just yeah, the acne that you had when before you went on the drug, would you take that back if you could cure all the long-term issues that you've got now that are a result of taking the drug? Would you say that your long-term issues are worse than the acne was, or worse, to deal with?
Well, I'm not. See, the thing is, I'm not entirely sure to what degree the the issues that it caused are actually due to that. But I would say the answer is yes. I just kind of I'm kind of uncertain about the the sureness
Okay.
of how much I would say yes, but definitely I'd say yeah.
Okay.
I would take it back.
Okay. Um, what happened after? So what's happened after finishing the drug?
So um, just when I stopped taking Accutane, I I felt pretty good to be done with it. I think my mood improved quite a bit. Um, I think I had some mild irritable bowel syndrome type symptoms that lingered on for a while. Um,
Okay. Was that constipation or diarrhea? Sorry to ask you that.
um, I'd
A
say
lot of people report constipation.
it was both really,
Yeah.
depending on what I was eating. It definitely wasn't really optimal or anything. But I'd say that one of the worst external symptoms was that um, my lip peeling was just so bad that I think I lost some of my epidermis, on especially my lower lip. It's not kind of visible in this because software does a pretty good job of clearing up people's complexions, but my lips just kind of they look a little bit too smooth now, and they peel a lot, pretty much constantly.
Okay. I
Um,
was going to ask, has that continued after
yeah,
taking the drug? Yeah.
I would say that has continued.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you you did start to feel better after you'd come off the drug, but was that like a limited period, and then you kind of went downhill at some stage?
I definitely noticed some emotional and cognitive issues that would very likely have been caused by the Accutane that shouldn't have really been there originally. I feel like my personality kind of changed afterward. I was a little bit more prone to make bad decisions, uh, especially socially. Social behavior was very poor quality. Um,
One thing that's commonly reported is risk taking.
I was a bit reckless in some ways. I definitely was prone to kind of binge on caffeine, and first few times I got to try alcohol, I really overdid it, much more than a normal person probably does. Um,
I know when we were talking offline earlier, you said that most of the issues that you've had since taking the drug have been mental. Could you elaborate on that?
Um,
I mean, what kind of things are you dealing with now?
well, it's hard to say. There's a lot that's happened since then, so I can't really exactly precisely pinpoint exactly what's due to the Accutane, but I know that it wasn't really too fun to be around after the Accutane. I was kind of negative, more so negative than I was before, and I think that lingered for a while. I would attribute a lot of the rough behavior and academic bad academic performance probably be attributable to it. The Accutane
Would you
effect.
say that that's been due to like a brain fog, or have you had any kind of dizziness, or what?
No dizziness, but I had a really bad um, problem with procrastination the last year or two of high school, and then I performed really bad in college. I had gotten good enough grades and everything before that. I got into a really good college, and I had 100% of my tuition paid for, and just I failed within wasn't able to get good enough grades to continue going to college after a couple semesters.
What were your grades like prior to taking the drug?
Oh, pretty much straight A's.
Okay.
I think I got my first C while I was taking Accutane, and yeah, I can remember doing much worse.
Okay. So definitely some serious cognitive impairment there. Um,
Yeah, I would say maybe learning
yeah.
whatever the hippocampus is responsible for, which I know that there's evidence that says that Accutane can negatively affect hippocampus function.
Um, did you experience any hair loss?
Um, I I was experiencing male pattern baldness. I don't think that it was caused by the Accutane. It's possible,
Is it,
but
is there any baldness in your family?
yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
But I don't get the worst of it. I've pretty much stopped losing hair, fortunately.
You mentioned that you took finasteride as well after taking the Accutane.
Yeah, that was kind of recent, um, but yeah, that caused some negative side effects too.
What sort of things did you deal with on that drug? Because I know there's a lot of people take that drug after they've taken Accutane because they lose their hair on Accutane and then they try to regain it by taking that.
It it really caused some kind of a problem with uh, my hormones and cognition. I mean, that's a separate issue. I can't
Right.
really get into that in this interview, but um,
I thought I'd mention that because I know there's a few guys that took that drug that are interested in the what goes on with all the Accutane stuff as well. Um, did it did it affect your or did the Accutane affect your sex life at all or your
um,
libido?
it definitely shut it down, shut everything down completely while I was taking the drug, and I think after a year or two, maybe mostly recovered, but um, I was definitely really self-conscious and pessimistic, so I kind of, had a lot of trouble taking girls on dates and whatnot, and um, yeah, dating didn't really go very well at all.
But that was mostly down to
So,
self
say,
confidence that was caused by the mental issues that the drug had left you with.
yeah, maybe self-consciousness that was probably, my lips and all the scars, and just kind of negative,
Okay.
personality-wise.
What would you say has been the worst of the side effects, the long-term side effects you've been left with?
Let's see. I think worst by far has to be the change in, I'd say, social behavior and decision making. That really caused more havoc in my life than anything else.
Yeah, that must have had a big impact on your social life. Have you found that did you find that you lost friends, or had conflict or anything like that?
Yeah, eventually. I mean, yeah. Um, yeah, I wasn't pleasant to be around. I had trouble meeting friends, maybe meeting people, and I was weird to begin with before the Accutane, but it probably made me a little bit weirder, um, and like either that and poor academic performance is very likely, and that's very likely that it was caused by Accutane.
Okay. And have doctors offered you much help and support in the aftermath?
Well, the thing is, I didn't really attribute any of my issues to the after effects of the Accutane. I had PTSD from a car accident that I got into right before I started college, so I attributed some things to that. But um, in retrospect, the Accutane is where a lot of problems started, and um, I did get treatment for depression. Tried that a time or two, and it didn't really work out very well at all. In retrospect, I should have tried the diet and exercise would have done a lot better.
Yeah, you mentioned when we were talking offline again about SSRIs and psychiatric medications that you've been prescribed. Have any of those been helpful?
No. SSRIs just caused a lot of erratic behavior that that I regret, and caused sabotage of a lot of relationships and potential relationships. But evidently that happens to a lot of people. So
Yeah, the use of psychiatric medications is at an all-time high. We were discussing, it's probably a good time to mention the book that I discussed with you earlier. If anybody's interested in taking an alternative approach to mental health issues, I'd highly recommend checking out a holistic psychiatrist called Kelly Brogan. This is her book. It's called A Mind of Your Own. Definitely get yourself a copy of that. Give it a read. She's got a strategy in there that you can employ, and she recommends fixing your gut health, and talks about how that can impact your brain health, and basically get to the root cause of mental health issues rather than just treating symptoms with medications. Back to the questions.
I'll certainly add that to my top of my reading list. I saw her interview on Joe Rogan's podcast, and she seemed very, very honest.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I'll put a link to that podcast down below in the description, and people can check that out. She's a really good person to listen to. That is a really good episode of the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay, have you had any tests, and did they show any abnormalities?
Mm, Not blood tests. Blood tests have gone pretty well, other than the slightly higher bilirubin, but I think that's a separate issue. It may have been caused by Accutane,
And
but
you've never been tested for vitamin D, have you? We mentioned that earlier.
I think I have. I try to take vitamin D supplements, so
Okay.
it should be fine. That's definitely something you want to look at,
Yeah,
especially.
it's common for people who've taken Accutane to be low on vitamin D. I believe because of low bile output, and you need bile to digest fats, and vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. Um, okay, you've never done any stool testing or anything like that to check the bacterial composition of your gut flora?
No, not at all.
No.
I really lucked out in terms of the intestinal issue. I know a lot of people have some really awful side effects from Accutane, but mine, I'd say, were mostly mental and skin issues.
Okay. What sort of skin issues have you've been left with then? Because you said that the acne has cleared up. Have you been left with kind of like, I know you mentioned the peeling lips, but have you been left with like any sort of dry skin issues like eczema or anything like that?
Well, obviously, since I since I discontinued the Accutane earlier, it didn't really get rid of my acne. It's still there. It was permanently uh, um, better. Not really as much inflammation or cysts or anything. But it's kind of a shame to have gone through the process of taking that medication, just not gotten the full benefits of it. But then maybe I avoided some of the worst side effects. So I guess
Do you,
I'm glad I discontinued it.
do you have any do you have any anxiety or intrusive thoughts or anything along those lines?
I was definitely experiencing a lot of that, maybe 2 or 3 years after taking Accutane, which was at a really crucial time. I was just starting college. I was just absolute train wreck at that time. Accutane very well might have been a factor when that happened, but I
Yes.
did just get in a car accident, but yeah, so it's kind of hard to differentiate.
Okay. Um, what what kind of things are you doing to manage your current issues?
Well, I've experimented a lot with different um, ways of trying to get cleaner skin or clearer skin, and just different kind of diets. Tried a lot of different diets and um, exercise routines and whatnot. I found that um, what really helps most is just avoiding sugar. Make sure
Okay.
you don't I don't get a lot of blood sugar spikes, and trying to avoid processed food as often as possible, especially stuff that has a lot of that anything that has you know processed carbohydrates or a lot of seed oils.
What do you notice when you eat those foods? What kind of effects do they have on you?
I just don't feel as good. More
Okay.
likely to get breakouts and just feel lousier.
You mentioned earlier that you tried the ketogenic diet, and it definitely helped you.
Yeah, that's been crucial for keeping the excess weight off, and it's a good way to break your addiction to um, too much sugar and starches for sure.
Yeah, but it's probably a good time for me to talk about the dietary approach that I use, and that's can be quite complicated, but once you get your head around it, it definitely offers a lot of relief. And the first thing that I do is the autoimmune paleo protocol, which is very good for people who have leaky gut syndrome, which is something that I think that most people who take Accutane will end up with. And then secondly, I avoid FODMAPs, which is basically all the sugars, starches, and fibers that feed bad bacteria in the digestive system. And a lot of people who've taken Accutane end up with an imbalanced gut flora, so too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. And when the bad bacteria feed on sugar, starches, and fibers, or on those FODMAPs, they produce byproducts and gas that can make you feel unwell or bloat you. They can make you feel dizzy. They can affect your brain. They can give you skin problems, all sorts of issues. And then, I try to do those two things whilst also staying in ketosis. So I get all my energies from fats. I eat a very, very low carb diet, almost zero carb diet at the moment. And that seems to really, really help me cognitively. It helps my brain. And it also helps the IBS that I've been left with. So that's definitely a good strategy to follow. I'll put some links in the description below to a couple of websites where you can find out information on those approaches. Okay, I asked you this earlier, but I'll ask again. How have your issues affected your social life and relationships? It's had quite a big impact, hasn't it?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it kind of messed me up during a really crucial point in my life.
Okay, and this is a no-brainer, this next question, but do you regret taking the drug?
I do. I regret not having better access to information about other possible cures for acne. I mean, I had tried a lot of different things like salicylic acid scrubs and benzoyl peroxide, everything like that. If I could go back, I would tell myself, okay, try a ketogenic diet, get more exercise, make sure you're sweating on a regular basis so your pores are cleaning out. Definitely don't use any kind of a soap on your face or your really anywhere that's going to dry your skin out. I think you're better off going with Dove moisturizing kind of soaps or body washes, even though it seems kind of feminine. But
well, my acne actually came back after taking Accutane. A couple of months after taking it, my acne came back, and the only thing that cleared it was the diet, like switching to a paleo diet, getting rid of grains and dairy and sugar. That was a big help. But also going low carb helps, because insulin can, if you're constantly demanding insulin from your body, that can imbalance your hormones and cause hormonal issues, the hormonal issues that cause acne. And if people want to know more about that, about the dietary approach, you can check out my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/The Primal Nutritionist. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And there's also a really good website that I've discovered fairly recently called goodglow.co. And there's a whole protocol that you can follow on there, dietary protocol for clear skin.
Yeah, I would also kind of definitely recommend changing your pillowcases every night. Just make sure you have some extra of those, and you're not sleeping on your own bacteria, really.
Yeah, and also I know a lot of guys, probably a lot of girls as well, go to sleep with product still in their hair, and I always make sure I clean that out of my hair before I go to bed at night.
Can't be good for you.
No. Okay. What would be your advice to other people who are thinking about taking Accutane?
I would say do your research. There's quite a bit of people who seem to be fine with it, but there's no denying the horror stories, and you never know what it's going to be doing to you in very subtle ways that could influence your life. it's definitely a chemical that it has some effect on some really important parts of the human brain. There's solid evidence for that, and it's definitely not worth it. There's better ways.
You spoke about a study that you read when we were talking offline earlier. Did you want to mention that at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's really uh, a dearth of actual studies on Accutane and what effects it has neurologically, but I did find one. There was one study involving MRIs where it showed that the orbitofrontal cortex is showed a significant decrease. I think it was about average of 20% decrease in metabolic activity in people that were on Accutane versus those that tried antibiotics. And if you read up on the orbitofrontal cortex, you find that it's a really important part of the brain, and it's in charge of exactly the kind of things that I was having issues with, like social behavior, decision making. That would kind of make a lot of sense, really, if that was kind of disabled or damaged because of the isotretinoin.
Okay, and maybe we can put that in the comments below. Maybe if you want to find that, maybe I'll find a link to that study after we finish recording, and then post it in the comments below the video. That might be helpful for people so they can have a look at that.
Sure. I'll
Yeah.
send you.
Okay, cool. Why do you think people like us are going unnoticed?
Well, I'm sure there's a calculation made by first doctors prescribing. They know that it's definitely helping some people, or quite a bit of people who have really bad acne, and that benefit might outweigh the potential harm in a small minority of patients. So I guess they make a kind of a calculation there to just kind of ignore the side effects or pretend they're not there. And also, I I would say that it's definitely true that the FDA, American FDA, is not really all that useful. They're biased a lot of times, and a lot of times they ignore good evidence and focus on not that great information. So
Yeah, I think one of the big problems is when drug companies test their products, they're not obligated to publish any negative results from their studies. So only the positive studies are published.
yeah, they can pick and choose, and they can just keep on doing studies until they get results that they like. So.
And the other problem is that 2/3 of all studies are funded by drug companies. That's something I've heard Chris Kresser talk about quite a lot.
Yeah, not to mention a large portion of the advertising on pretty much all mainstream media is funded by pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, that's something that's unique to the US and New Zealand. I think it's the only two countries
Yeah.
where prescription medications can be advertised on TV. It always seems a bit crazy to me coming from the UK.
Yeah,
It certainly doesn't happen here.
Some of those advertisements are completely absurd too, and at least they have to list all the side effects.
Yeah, yeah, it seems ridiculous. Okay, do you think the drug should be banned?
I do not, because there are people out there that have really serious acne, like kind that can just completely, absolutely ruin your life, and probably a large percentage of those people do get a benefit that outweighs the risk. So I don't think it should be banned, but I think that it should be prescribed much more carefully. I think that this habit of recommending it for people that just have mild or moderate acne is really reckless
Yeah.
and definitely motivated by economics more than anything.
Yeah. Well, when you do that, you create millions of extra customers, don't you? It's the same with any medication.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they could come up with some kind of a test to see how people are going to respond to it. I'm sure there's some kind of genetic marker that you see.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about actually. I've thought about that a few times. I think that people like you and I should be investigated to try and get to the bottom of why we've had the reactions we've had to this drug, and other people seem to be able to take it and be fine afterwards. But I also think that people should be monitored for at least a couple of years after taking the drug, because a lot of my issues began to manifest quite a long time after taking it. Things just gradually got worse and worse. I think because of the issues that it created in my digestive system, um, something kind of at the root of my digestive system, probably my gallbladder or bile production was impaired, and then that gradually led to worse and worse digestive issues, and then in turn via the link between the gut and the brain, it started to affect my brain as well.
Mm.
Um,
Well, there's a huge link between gut health and brain health. I mean, supposedly the human intestinal system has the same amount of brain cells as a cat's brain.
yeah, I think something like 90% of the serotonin in your body is actually in your gut, and
Mm.
basically all of your neurotransmitter chemicals are made in your gut and then used by the brain. Somebody who's really good to listen to on that subject is a neurologist called David Perlmutter. I mentioned him on the last video, I think. He's written 2 books called Grain Brain and Brain Maker. Those 2 books were really helpful for me. Okay, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future is just that can maintain as good health as possible, and personally, and then also that I hope that this channel you've created expands. I hope that you can get a lot more interesting interviews with people. If I think that it could, and a lot more subscribers, it could potentially help a lot of people and maybe bring some awareness so that people are a little bit more cautious about using Accutane, and maybe you can get some encourage more research to be done on it, for sure.
Yeah, there's certainly. I'm contacted by, because I've shared my story on 3 different platforms now, and I'm talking about this on YouTube and also on Facebook groups. I get a lot of people from all over the world contacting me now, average of about 2 or 3 a week, and they say that they've read my story or they've listened to my story, and it's pretty much exactly the same as the experience that they've had. So basically, if I can interview a third of those people, then I'm going to hopefully get quite a few interviews on this channel. And yeah, the main thing is, the main two goals is just to raise awareness that there are negative things that can happen when you take this drug, which for a lot of people last a lifetime. And also, I'm kind of on a mission to help people feel a bit more positive about the future when they've been left with these issues, because nobody is offering any hope. Nobody's offering any way to deal with the long-term issues that they're left with. They go to doctors, and the doctors don't know what to do with them, and then that can obviously lead to more depression, and then eventually some of these people take their own lives. And I really don't want to be hearing about that anymore.
Me either. Do you think there's much might be value in trying to get people to report these side effects more to the
Yeah. Also,
FDA?
definitely. If you've taken Accutane and you've had any of these side effects, then you need to report them. I know in the UK there's something called the yellow card system, the MHRA yellow card. I've got an app actually. There's an app that you can get. I don't know if you can get it on Android, but I've got it on iOS. This is it here. I don't know if you can see it in this light. It's the
yellow card. Is
yeah.
that just for the UK, or is that for
it's I think it's just for the UK. Yeah, yellow card, making medicine safer. It's
so for you guys, that stuff's everything like that's regulated by the
yeah, I think it's the MHRA. Just let me confirm that.
MHRA, yeah. So that's basically like your FDA, right?
Yeah, it stands for Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. Yeah, so MHRA. Yeah, yeah. So definitely, if you've had issues post Accutane and you live in the UK, report it to them. And then if you live in the US, report it to the FDA. I don't know, Schuyler, you might know where you need to report that, do you? Or is there a website that you know of?
I'm not really. I haven't looked into it. I mean, I'm sure it would help to report things, but yeah, like a lot of people haven't had any kind of motivation to report anything.
Done a quick Google search there. When side effects do occur, you're encouraged to report them to the FDA's MedWatch, a program for reporting serious problems with human medical products, including drugs. So yeah, head there. Okay. I've just put on here that I should really tell people. I'm going to talk about this in every interview I do. Sort of tell people how I'm managing my long-term issues, which are, well, I've had a whole load of long-term side effects: depression, anxiety, insomnia, severe IBS, leaky gut syndrome, fatigue, joint pain, some worse skin issues. I used to get a lot of redness and like kind of almost like a red rash on my face. And basically all of this is a result of the way that the drug has left my digestive system. So like I mentioned earlier, I follow the autoimmune paleo protocol, a low FODMAP diet, and also I keep myself in ketosis. There's some supplements I also take. One of them is Body Bio Phosphatidylcholine, Body Bio PC. You can buy that on Amazon. I take magnesium glycinate. That's the Nutri-Advanced brand that you can. There's lots of different brands available. Supplements I take for gut health as well are L-glutamine and N-acetyl-glucosamine. I can put some links to those below. And also another thing that I take is acetyl L-carnitine. That's good for mitochondrial function, testosterone, and the metabolism of fats. Yeah, and as I said earlier, please like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/lifeafteraccutane if you'd like to donate and support the channel. I dedicate quite a lot of time to helping people online, and obviously this channel is going to take up quite a lot of my time. So it would be nice if you could maybe take the time to or be generous enough to make some sort of donation. Schuyler is actually my first patron, which I'm extremely grateful for. And yeah, check out the Accutane long-term side effects group on Facebook. There's just over 2,000 members there. We talk about people's stories and how they're helping themselves, possible things that could be done to cure the issues that we have. It's quite a good place to discuss everything that's going on. There's also another Facebook group which is called Accutane Survivors, Accutane Injuries and Side Effects. That's a mixture of people who are who've had a positive experience or a negative experience, or are actually still currently taking the drug. It can be a bit of a debating forum and things get quite heated in there sometimes, but it was actually started by somebody who's been negatively affected by the drug. And it's an interesting place to have a look if you're considering taking the drug, or if you've taken it and you're experiencing issues. Another thing that you can check out, I'm actually a certified primal health coach. I've become so I've become so motivated with the whole sort of paleo primal approach to diet and lifestyle that I decided to become a certified primal health coach. And you can check out my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the primal nutritionist. I'll put that in the description below. Okay, well, thanks for joining me on this interview, Schuyler, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. And if you need any assistance going forward, you know where to find me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just really excited to help out with this and share my story, and I'm sure you're gonna be creating a lot of really interesting interviews in the future. It'll be exciting to watch. And
yeah, if anybody else is watching this and they would like to come on for an interview, then please either comment below or contact me via my Facebook page, the Primal Nutritionist Facebook page, or you can email me at lifeafteraccutane@gmail.com.
Yeah, do you think you might ever want to interview someone that's on the other side of the issue, that's like maybe convinced that Accutane is really good, and might want to just have like a debate interview ever?
Possibly. Yeah, that might be interesting to explore. And I'm definitely not denying that people, this channel is not really. I'm not trying to promote the idea that the drug is all bad. Definitely. But I think more needs to be done to raise awareness of the negative side effects, because there's so many people that contact me that are suffering, and they just don't know where to turn, and they need information like this, or they need to feel that there are other people dealing with the issues that they're dealing with, because I think you can feel quite alone in your suffering if you're not able to connect with other people that are dealing with the same issues.
Yeah, there's definitely an abundance of evidence to show that these negative side effects are really real, and probably more prevalent than we really know. It's, if some of these symptoms are kicking in a while after taking Acne, most people are never really going to make the connection.
Yeah, that's what I find. There's a lot of people kind of end up with anxiety or IBS, or some of the things that we've talked about, but they end up with them further, like a year or two down the line after taking Accutane, and they don't tie it to the drug. Their doctor doesn't tie it to the drug. But then there's more and more people coming to the Facebook groups now, kind of making the connection and realizing that it was the drug that caused their problems.
Yeah, and I'm sure when people finally start to figure this out, and maybe they start prescribing with a little bit more caution, that'll have to happen. That'll have to start with the UK and Europe, and then maybe hopefully the US will follow their lead if enough people complain about it.
Well, I would say with there being obviously a lot more people in the US, there must be a lot more people that have been negatively affected by it. But I think the prescription of it is slightly different in the US. I've noticed a bit of a trend recently. People in the UK seem to be on a much higher dose than people in the US. What did you say your dose was? Do you remember?
It was either 40 or 60. I'm not sure. It wasn't a particularly high dose, but it was enough to really cause some serious changes.
Yeah, my dose was actually 80 milligrams. So it's,
wow.
I think in the UK there's a lot of dermatologists that are still prescribing a milligram per kilogram of body weight.
Wow. Are they pushing it for mild or moderate acne over there?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I've seen a case quite recently of a girl who had very mild acne, and then the drug made her purge severely,
Mm.
and yeah, it's left her with a lot of scarring, which isn't a good situation. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap that up there.
Pharmaceuticals have ruined.
Oh, sorry,
Right.
go on.
Oh, no, nothing.
No, okay. I think we'll wrap that up there. And yeah, thanks for joining me on this interview. And
It's been a pleasure, and I hope to talk to you again pretty soon.
yeah, we'll keep in touch. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you on the next interview.